Yeah. How about you? Do you feel a sense of pride when you saw him taking budget airline?
Okay, I won't deny that my first thought was like, this is just wayang.
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 Why so cynical?
Because, okay, like, I mean, in the context of what happened the past few weeks, and this one I'm not leaping, okay? Even if you look at the facts, there was an ex-minister tried for taking a private jet to Doha for like one night and flying back private jet. The holiday season is coming up soon, and I'm sure you want to get Christmas gifts that are meaningful, unique, and heartfelt. You know, something that really shows gratitude to a loved one, that lets them know how much you appreciate them, right? Now, it's not easy, but we've got the perfect idea to help you do just that. An audio recording of you sharing your favorite stories and memories of a special someone, delivered in a Bluetooth speaker styled as a good old mixtape. Say hello to our Folklore cassette. All we'll need is a 30-minute phone call with you or someone you nominate, and we'll turn that conversation into a podcast that your loved one can listen to the moment they receive their personalized cassette. It'll come preloaded with your recording, and it's a unique gift that your loved one can bring with them wherever they go. We launched this last year, and our entire batch was sold out for Christmas. People loved it, which is why we are offering it once again this year. So order by 31st October to guarantee a cassette delivered to you by Christmas. Slots are limited, so the earlier you book, the better. Now, we've recorded with hundreds of customers from over 20 countries, so we're pretty sure we can help you create something magical. You can find out all the info you need at folklore.com, along with examples and reviews from our previous customers. The link is in the show notes, so please check it out. And now, on to the podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
Well, why the jolly vibes, Terrence?
I mean, this Monday is it's exciting Monday, right?
Isn't it gloomy, like rainy, you know?
Oh, when there's excitement in the air, when it rains, it pours, right?
Yeah. So what are you so excited about, Terrence?
This morning we another Yala, but first we made our first trip to the courts, the state courts, or something. Yeah,
starting off at the state court.
Haven't gone to Supreme Court, I think. Yeah. I think we mentioned something like that previously, right? That it will be interesting to observe court proceedings for one of these high-profile cases.
Yeah.
And it just so happens, this morning was the start of Pritam Singh's trial, right?
Yeah, so we were there bright and early. I wouldn't say bright, it was gloomy and early.
It's gloomy.
And we sat there for half a day before coming back to the office to record this episode. Yeah. So, I mean, we're not going to be talking about the case today because it's still very early. But what was it? What did it feel like to be at the state courts?
Definitely interesting. There was a media frenzy waiting outside the state court. So I think everyone's been talking about how the reporters flood, or at least they gather, cluster around the accused, right, in all these cases, Iswaran and all. Yeah. And then as they slowly walk towards the courts, there are people tripping over each other and everything. So we actually got to see it in action today.
And we saw the steps, the steps.
We saw the steps, but we didn't see any reporters trip because of the rain. Yeah. There were no reporters walking on those steps, unfortunately.
Yeah, they were all walking under shelter.
Fortunately.
They were walking under shelter.
So they were under shelter, but there was still that frenzy. And there was this buzz and energy in the air when is that Pritam, is that somebody? And then there were other people arriving at court at the same time, right? Who do you see of significance?
Saw Jamus Lim.
Yes.
Saw Xia Xue. And I guess, the ones that caused the biggest frenzy were expectedly Raisa Khan and Pritam Singh.
Star witness Raisa Khan.
Yeah. And I mean, the reason why there's such a frenzy is because a lot of these journalists and reporters, which didn't occur to me last time, from the time anyone who gets off the car walks to the state court, they have a very limited window because a lot of these journalists and crew, they don't have tickets or passes to go into the building.
Yeah.
So they have this 50-meter stretch where they need to just get every photo and video they can before the witnesses go in.
Yeah, and get the iconic shot, right?
Yeah, the iconic shot. It's a competition, it's a contest.
Yeah. I remember, I think we were talking about, there are some really good pictures of Iswaran as he was leaving or entering courts, where he's very stoically looking straight at the camera in the midst of a group of reporters, right?
Yeah.
So those sent chills down your spine.
So were you part of the frenzy or not, Terrence?
No. I think we stood apart because I think we're not there as media.
Yeah.
We're really just there to observe, right? Yeah. And in fact, we're not even going to talk about it, the case.
Yeah.
Because I think we talked about on Yalla But before that we don't want to jump to reporting like the most current thing. We kind of want to like read what the mainstream media say, what other people online have to say first, and sort of just what do you call it? Just digest and consolidate whatever information we have. I love the army term, consolidate. Consolidate the information and then present it to you with our thoughts on it.
Yeah, also because like from the courtroom itself, the CNA journalists and all were already updating the blog.
Yeah.
Their live stream.
So I almost felt I didn't have to take notes because they were literally writing.
Exactly. It's like the best thing is sitting in a lecture and you got a very studious people writing all the notes.
You don't even need to peek over on their shoulder or anything.
It's online.
Yeah, it's all there.
You just refresh and they update every few minutes.
Correct.
So, but so that was one thing about what happened. But how would you describe like? I mean, we can't talk about like everything that happened.
Yeah.
But just being in the court, during this sort of trial, anything that surprised you?
I mean, my point of comparison would be Parliament, right? I feel like it's even more like feels even more like would I say stuffy atmosphere because you're actually in the same chambers as the lawyers and the accused and the judge and everyone. You're all literally breathing the same air-conditioned air, right? Whereas in Parliament, you're sort of like separated, right, with the glass barrier between you. So yeah, it's like you can hear a pin drop in the room, which is helpful because you want to be able to hear what the lawyers are saying, right? But yeah, it just felt very stifling. And the fact that there are police or people who work at the courts looking over your shoulder at every point in time to make sure that you're not like taking photos or recording videos or recording audio or anything. So I mean that's precisely their job, right? I'm just saying that the atmosphere feels much more like tense and serious.
And I mean Parliament, it's not always serious and it's a thing that happens every month. Whereas these sort of trials, they're always convened as like a one-off. And I mean, it's always like Parliament, a functioning government will need a healthy Parliament. But you don't need trials happening, right?
No,
you don't need court cases and all. So yeah, it was an interesting experience. And I mean, again, like anyone can attend these trials. You just need to go there and get a ticket. Same way, a lot of people are still surprised when we tell them anyone can go to Parliament.
Yeah.
And it is one of these things, especially if you care about like the local politics or the judiciary or just how things work. It's just good to go once in a while and experience it.
Yeah. I mean, we were literally seated next to Xia Xue as well. During the duration of it. I think even the media was also like a bit like taken aback by Xia Xue's presence. Yeah. So they asked her what she was doing there and all.
Yeah. I mean, we know her.
Yeah,
it's not say like we were oh my God, it's Xia Xue. I mean, she's been on this podcast before.
No love lost between Workers' Party and Xia Xue for sure. Right? She's not shy about talking about it.
Yeah.
So but I mean, but at the end of the day, we're all Singaporeans also just going to listen to the proceedings, right?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the opening statement and when we left, Raisa Khan was testifying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we might go back there again and we will definitely be talking about the case just when there is more info to cover.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, today's topics also, I mean, also interesting, right?
Yeah, interesting.
Put Singapore on the international map. But before we jump to them,
yes.
What is the one thing that we always tell people?
That if you're new to the podcast or if you've been listening to us for a while and you enjoy the content, it would be great if you could follow us on social media because we don't just exist on YouTube and Spotify. We are on Instagram and TikTok and Reddit. And just tell someone who may not have heard about us so that, more people can join the Yalla But fam and more the algorithm can also serve you more of our content.
Yeah. And to find out more about our content, check out ministryoffunny.com or, write us at contact@ministryoffunny.com to find ways to work with us. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Cool.
All right.
So,
this first topic, we heard rumblings about it before because actually the first recollections of what was happening was on X by the couple in question. But now it is in the news, local news. But also international news.
Yeah.
And it is the news that there's a Spanish couple who are being investigated by the Singapore police over protests against Valencia owner Peter Lim.
So
for those of you who might not be aware, Valencia is a Spanish football club in La Liga, which is the top football league in Spain. That was, I think, bought over by Peter Lim like 10 years ago when they were riding towards bankruptcy. They were doing very well as a football club. I think they've been Champions League finalists twice. They've won La Liga before. And a lot of people were, especially the supporters, were happy that Peter Lim came in at the start because he kind of saved them from bankruptcy. But since then, I think there is almost a near unanimous dislike for Peter Lim and desires for him to get out of the club management. But this couple in question, they were a Spanish couple. They are apparently in Singapore and generally Southeast Asia for their honeymoon. Danny Cuesta and his wife, Miria Saiz, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. They stopped at Singapore airport on Friday. They came last week. And I think they got an idea to hold up these yellow banners that says Lim Go Home, which apparently is widely displayed in Valencia. In apartment buildings. It's like the Singapore flag, over there. People hanging out their homes at the stadium just as a sign of their desire for Peter Lim to go home, which means get out of the club. So he held his yellow banner at different places in Singapore, at MBS, and at a Belia condo at Otmore Park, which apparently is where Peter Lim owns a residential property, or he owns the whole condo complex. So when they tried to leave Singapore last Friday, they were stopped at Singapore airport, and their passports were confiscated because of an ongoing police investigation. So I guess right now they're waiting for stuff to happen. But when did you first hear about this news?
Yeah, it was around the same time as you. I think last week I saw the news and didn't really look much at it because I saw that it was just essentially like one couple, right? At first I thought it was a big group of people who came together, but it was really just one person by himself, right? But actually it's interesting because we talked about how what football means to a lot of smaller European cities, right? Especially when we talk to Sean Bai, the Singaporean who's working at Burnley now, and it really is something quite a spectacle to behold. What football means to these, maybe not even cities, but even smaller towns and stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
where it's really part of their community and they really feel very strongly about it. And I think Sean Bai alluded to that quite a bit on the podcast that we recorded with him, where, you literally people will recognize you the moment you walk around.
As part of the management.
Management, you work there or what. Especially if you don't look like them from there, right? Yeah. Especially like Asian people walking around. So the level of vitriol against Peter Lim, I think is we never experienced anything like that in terms of sporting culture in Singapore, where we don't hate our even FAS or no matter how badly Singapore does in the rankings or that, nobody like publicly like tries to stage protests against the manager or anything. So it is, I think it's quite new to us that something like that is happening. Right?
Yeah. And I mean, like, it got coverage as you would expect internationally. The Athletic has covered it. BBC has covered it. Guardian has covered it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can imagine the narrative that, Singapore detains Spanish newlyweds over football protests because it's their honeymoon.
Yeah.
And then all the articles give context about, Singapore's very, very strict laws on public demonstrations and how, there were these German, I think, youngsters who were caned for vandalizing or drawing graffiti on a train. And then Michael Fay, of course, inevitably comes up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it propagates the narrative that Singapore is like damn strict about this shit. But if you read the Public Order Act of 2009, right, some things also like I wasn't fully aware because in some way you can get in trouble as a single person staging a protest. And there was the case of Jolovan Wham, right, holding up the smiley face. So to quote the Public Order Act, an assembly means a gathering or meeting whether or not comprising any lecture, talk, address, debate, or discussion of persons, the purpose or one of the purpose of which is to demonstrate support for or opposition to the views of actions of any person, group, or persons or any government, to publicize a cause or campaign, or to mark or commemorate an event.
Yeah.
And includes a demonstration by a person alone. So, I mean, it feels like, oh shit, that means if I want to commemorate, if I want to commemorate my birthday, right, I don't think I'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
But if you want to demonstrate support or opposition to the views of a person, then you might get in trouble. And I think if you're a foreigner doing something in opposition to a Singaporean, even more trouble.
Yeah. And my context of talking about what Peter Lim and Valencia, their relationship right now, I feel like it's over there. It's probably feels like a movement already. Like, like getting Peter Lim out of the club feels like a almost political movement, because that's what it means to people. That's how deep football runs in their veins. So in some way, you can say that, what this person is doing is he's just holding up a sign, but he's holding up a sign from quite a very, very emotionally charged movement from overseas, right? So in that context, you think about what Singapore has said about, say, protesting against the Israel-Gaza conflict and all that, right? The Israel-Hamas conflict. It's quite in the same vein, I would say.
In what way?
You can advocate for your humanitarian causes, all that, but if you're protesting against, something that's very emotionally charged in another country and all that, there's a big no-no in Singapore. You can. That's what the big crux of the matter is in the whole debate about, are we being too draconian, especially with regards to protesting against the Israel-Hamas war, right? People have said, like, what's wrong with speaking up on the side of justice or being a humanitarian aid or anything, right? But at the same time, the argument has been that is such an emotionally charged issue that if you take that and bring that to Singapore's environment, it has a chance to destabilize things. Do you think that argument applies for something like Peter Lim go home?
Because, I mean, when you said Israel, Gaza and all, if you're protesting things that are happening in other countries, that's one thing. But I'm just looking at the Jolovan Wham case, the unlawful assembly. I mean, he wasn't protesting something that happened abroad, right? It was, what was it? Holding up, demonstrate support for, I think it was about some activists, climate change activists. So even for local issues, I think if you were to stage a one-man protest, you would be in trouble, right? But your question was whether it is necessary to be that.
No. My question is, how do you compare, the Singapore stance against something like Israel-Gaza, saying that, it's emotionally charged and, ultimately it's a conflict in another region, right? Why bring it here? And then versus this Peter Lim thing is very emotionally charged. I mean, it's kind of like a conflict between a community and a person in another region. So why bring it here? And then it's kind of like, if you look at them side by side, there are overlaps or similarities, right?
Correct.
So would you say that you can say that it's obvious that this also should be banned?
It's not that obvious, only because I would say the Israel Gaza thing, it is so charged and it has a lot of religious and ethnic lines that are part of it also. And that kind of stuff can be very, very emotionally charged, can go down a violent path if things spin out of control.
Chob, everything you just said can be used to describe people's emotions in football. It can become violent and emotionally charged and things spiral out of control.
That's true, because there have been riots and all that. Right. But I would say, I mean, like the football thing, it does feel like it's on a different level. Yeah. But that being said, right, I think one thing, just now when you're saying, it's very tough for us to understand what hardcore Valencia fan from Valencia feels about Peter Lim, because we have never been that passionate about football to the point where we're like,
I was Malaysia Cup 1995.
True.
I'm a true Lions fan.
I never went to a game, but we could both sing the songs of what the national team was singing, right? The Dream Team, right? Come on, everybody. So but I also don't remember it being that politically charged, demanding the change of management or something. But then if anyone listening to this thinking, this it's just football after all, why would people get so emotionally charged? The recent Income Alliance thing, which breaking news today, just before we started talking about this, was that the deal is off. But in the lead up to that, I think there were a lot of people who I would imagine were voicing out their displeasure, because it felt like, NTUC Income is our thing, is a people's thing. Who is this foreign entity coming and buying a majority stake and taking it away from us? What about the social mission? So I would imagine in Valencia, football is that primal, So you have this foreigner come in, buy it out, and kind of over the 10 years, move it from like a top tier finishing top 4 to like trying to avoid relegation. I can imagine the sentiments there. So, and if you Google Lim go home, right, you look at all the images, that sign is damn common in Valencia, So then going back to what you said, whether it should be classified as the same, I don't think so. But what do you think?
I think, like, just building on what I said, I think actually football is so emotionally charged as a game, as a sport, as an enterprise in Europe, that, we never experience it in Singapore, so we don't really fully understand it. But it is such a big part of that thing that I think anecdotally I've heard. So I'm not going to pull Raisha Khan and say that I know. I know anecdotally people have said to me. Anecdotally, people have told me that, these people running the clubs and all that, they get death threats.
Oh, yeah.
They get, they have to have security walking around, because if they don't, they'll have eggs pelted at them. They'll, probably even be stabbed or something. So it can lead to very immediate violence, and not like something far away. It's literally like, violence in front of you, kind of on the streets kind of thing. So there is some element of, I think, you don't want that. You don't want to import that to Singapore, especially if Peter Lim, ultimately, he's just a billionaire who's flying around the world and, in his private jet and everything, right? It's nothing to do with Singapore per se, right? In the sense that I don't even know if he lives in Singapore all the time or so, right? But you import it here and you're pasting stickers. Because they said that he pasted stickers around, not just one.
Did he paste stickers?
Yeah, he pasted stickers, like outside his condo and all that. But there are some news articles that say it was multiple places. So if he's pasting them around, based on what the newspaper said, it's sort of instigating, other people to do the same. Maybe inspiring other fans from Valencia to come and do this in Singapore also.
No, sticker is immediately vandalism.
Correct. Right. So there is an act of vandalism already.
Mm.
But I'm saying that even just the sign of going around holding a sign of a very emotionally charged message, and almost I think for him, there was some, I couldn't translate his tweets in time on X. I couldn't translate his tweets, but what I understand, he found it he was quite, what do you call it? He was aware that what he was doing might not be 100% kosher, and he was communicating with people on X about that as well, in terms of having a slightly tongue-in-cheek kind of approach to it.
But then you see, the thing about race, right? There are laws in Singapore that protect against seditious acts or, religious harmony, or racial harmony. There's no laws against football.
Correct.
Because then if I were to protest about, I don't know whether the Singaporean owner of this equestrian club in Italy or something.
Yeah.
Not to shit on equestrian, but I can imagine it being not as like primal as football. I mean, I might be shooting myself in the foot. But then it becomes a bit subjective, right? If you're determining how emotionally charged this thing can get, and then using that to decide whether or not this is against the law or a bad thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Life is not so black and white, right? It's not so easy to determine.
But that's the point of laws, right?
Correct.
Because
Yeah.
for all we know, it might just be the condo security seeing these people
penalized
and calling the police.
Correct.
And the moment an investigation starts, they can't. So maybe it's also something that is not in the eyes of the general public. I would imagine if you do a survey of 1,000 people, there might be less people who would see this as serious as a protest against Israel Gaza.
Correct.
But it just so happened that there was a police report made.
Yeah.
Right.
But he did break the law, right?
By pasting,
by pasting, that's vandalism. Because we've seen what happened to Samantha Low, the sticker lady or so.
She also got police report, right?
Yeah. She went to jail. I believe so, yeah. So she has a criminal record. But after that, she became a very famous artist, right? Based off that.
If this couple goes back to Valencia, I think they will be heroes.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's the question, are we being too, are we having a stick up our arse for doing this to just a fan, a random fan who's coming to Singapore and all that, right?
Passion made possible, Terrence?
Passion made possible.
Singapore Tourism Board, passion made possible.
But Singapore, since the days of the 90s and Michael Fay and everything happened, right? We've made a very clear stance that you can't just come to Singapore and expect us to treat you according to what your laws are in the US, right?
Yeah.
Like Michael Fay would have gotten away with all the shit that he did in Singapore. But Singapore is Singapore. We need to cane, right? It's just part of the laws, right? Your president can intervene also, but sorry, you're just here and this is what you did.
Yeah.
And, not saying that we aspire to be like that, right? But Singapore's not the only place in the world where where a lot of foreigners come and then they do things that not necessarily break the law, but in really bad taste, right? Like taking topless photos at temples and stuff like that, right?
Singapore got topless photos?
No, not Singapore. I think like Bali or I think or Myanmar or something like that, where these kind of things happen.
Or Mount Kinabalu.
Kinabalu, shit has happened to and stuff has happened to them, right? And the general sentiment of a lot of times when you read about these things online, people say that these are just tourists being stupid, right? And they know what they're doing isn't lawful or isn't allowed in the country like that, but they still choose to do it. And now, should we be giving them sympathy for choosing to do that? No lah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the one thing that I've also come to realize is that you can disagree with a law, even as a Singaporean, but you still have to respect the law as it stands.
Yeah.
Right? So in this case, do I think that this is really unnecessary? Yes. But I also agree with the fact that it is still our law. You cannot come to our country and do what you want to do and expect that, there'll be sympathy or compassion or some sort of like leeway to do what you want.
But I'm a bit confused in one way, in the sense that does it mean that if you come to Singapore as a tourist, and you hold out a sign that said free hugs for World Mental Health Day or something like that?
If someone calls the police,
that's a cause right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's why if you read I was surprised that the Public Order Act is that all encompassing. Like to publicize a cause or campaign. You want to raise money for, I don't know, this endangered species of lemur.
Yeah.
What lemur?
Llamas.
Llamas in Peru or something like that. It can fall under this. So maybe it's one of those things that's ambiguous enough that, okay, if you do something that inconveniences someone, they file a police report, you can have this held against you.
But in some ways, this happening about this Peter Lim Valencia thing kind of tells you that, so it's not just about if you don't agree with the Singapore government on their what they do, right? It's basically if you bring any form of causes to protest to Singapore, because this is nothing to do with Singapore politics at all, right? Peter Lim's ownership of Valencia.
But then, do you think it'd be different if a Singaporean did that?
If a Singaporean held up this Peter Lim go home sign,
because if it's different, then that is a bit weird. They should be held to the same law.
Yeah. Because, I mean, ultimately, they should be held to the same law. Because ultimately, like when Taylor Swift comes to Singapore and all.
Yeah, all the posters.
Everyone's holding up posters and, Taylor,
blocking roads.
Yeah.
And like taking public park space.
Yeah. So I'm not very sure. Okay, but there's another aspect to this that I think is also a slightly darker part about footballing fans that sometimes we don't talk about, right? Peter Lim, I believe, is ethnically Chinese Singaporean as well. And there's in Europe especially, there's been a sort of a move towards more right-wing support for right-wing politics, right? And anecdotally, again, this is not scientific, but anecdotally, Singaporeans who have traveled to Europe a lot, when I speak to them, they all say that it's very different environment. There's a lot more hostility towards Asian people for various reasons, economy and what they perceive. Or they maybe just think that we're from China or India or other parts, So there might be almost an element of, I'm not sure, I'm not privy to how Valencia fans are talking about Peter Lim, but there might be an element of racism involved in saying, go home. Telling a foreigner, go home. I don't want you here. It's a very, can be a very emotionally charged kind of attack when you tell someone to go home.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think anytime there is a foreign entity coming to your country and doing something, there's a primal sentiment, which again, if you look at the income alliance thing,
correct,
there is a sentiment. Who are you? You don't understand the social fabric of Singapore and the role that NTUC Income has played.
Yeah.
In some way, go home, Yeah. But the ironic thing was
that we never said that. Nobody ever told say Alliance to go home. Right? Alliance is already here.
Yeah. And I mean, the ironic thing is that he went to Peter Lim's supposed home and told him to go home based on the banner.
So that was going through my mind that this is home already.
Yeah. So, and then I think they are also trying to ask Peter Lim to use his influence to help them out.
Yeah.
Then
help who out? help this fan out.
The couple, yeah. I think they went on X or something saying that, he should use his influence to help them.
Yeah.
Which again is like, whoa, man, you gotta pick your sides, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact is that it's the news is all over the world, at least in the footballing world. And it's painting the same narrative of Singapore.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, as much as I also feel sometimes our laws can be like super tight. The fact is, it's the law at this point. You want to change it, you fight against it, you find a way to change it. But I do believe that if the law is there, you can disagree with it, but you have to respect it.
So question, if let's say a bunch of Valencia fans met up at somebody's house or a bar or a condo private room or something like that, and all of them were holding all these signs, Lim go home. The whole room is flooded in yellow, Lim go home,
Yeah.
Would that be considered any problem?
So I don't know.
As a public protest?
But like if they're contained within like your house, and there's no reason why people, and they're doing it all silently, making noise, baking cookies and giving it to all the neighbors, being very nice. I don't know. Does it fall under the Public Order Act?
Yeah, because the yellow and black are also Valencia's team colours, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you can just say that it's just team celebration. So will anybody, holding a Man U flag with Ten Hag step down, or something like that, would they get in trouble also,
Yeah.
Because I think you would be happily holding that flag, right?
Ten Hag go home.
Yeah, Ten Hag go home.
And for full disclosure, I'm not just a fair weather Ten Hag. I used to be a fan and now I'm not. Yeah. I've never really been a fan of him.
But you are Ten Hag.
Okay. But that's a whole separate discussion.
Yeah. But would that be a problem if you Ten Hag go home?
So I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think this might all be just because there was one or like a few people called the police on them and it has to be investigated.
So maybe the sticker was the problem.
Yeah. Or maybe even like if they are holding a banner outside private property, you can imagine, I think Ardmore Park is like quite atas one, right?
Yeah.
Where I'm guessing they want to be secluded away from public eye. And if you get these people holding a banner taking photos, I mean, if we go to any commercial property in town, like a mall, and we are holding a banner taking photos and all, security, if they might come up to you,
Yeah.
So I would imagine for this condo, they came up, they said, can you not take photos and all? Then they still took the photos, showing the name of the condo and all. Then they just call police.
That's also an element of doxing, right, in some way.
Yeah, in some way. Yeah, in some way, doxing. So maybe this is just one of those things that was like not the most significant thing, but because of a sequence of different actions has blown up into like an international matter.
Yeah, ultimately, the source of the pictures of him outside the condo are from his own Twitter.
Yeah,
they're sourced to his own Twitter account. So he was posting about it and gloating about it on his social media.
Yeah, exactly.
So if someone called the police based on that, the evidence is already there, right?
Yeah. And when he goes back home to Valencia, him and his wife will probably become like heroes. So it's one of those things, you're doing it for like the clout, man.
Yeah.
But I think the case is still being investigated. It's ongoing.
He might be
totally acquitted,
and
then
totally acquitted.
Can still go to Bali.
Yeah. Maybe Peter Lim will ask him out for lunch or something.
No.
Maybe this is his 4D chess way of like trying to get an audience with Peter Lim.
Yeah. But yeah, man.
Correct.
Yeah, man.
But I think, as Singapore becomes like a sort of a global center for concerts and events and stuff like that, we'll get more of these kind of things, right? Where very big fans will come and like protest things and all that, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes, the acts that come to Singapore also, they have their own problems or scandals in their countries at home. And, someone in Singapore could use that to make a political statement. Right? Yeah. So for example, right now there's this big thing with Diddy going on, which I think Mona talked about.
Yeah.
And already in Singapore, people are using the word Diddy as a reference to other sexual predators or alleged sexual predators in Singapore.
And like at least one name has come out, right?
One name has come out, right, over the weekend. So yeah, I guess we'll be seeing more of these kind of things where fans and all that are coming to Singapore and using it as a platform to show the world something.
Or as Minister Shan said, importing these things from other countries,
Yeah.
And like wokeism and like
Yeah. But speaking of importing things from other countries, right?
Yeah.
Recently, one of our airlines imported something, not imported, right? But brought back something to Singapore, which was turns out is one of the the
prized possession, national treasures, and it shocked everyone that they did so, right?
Yeah. And what or who was this prized possession?
It is the news that Scoot recently brought dear PM Lawrence Wong back on his flight from Laos to Singapore.
Yeah.
It's pronounced Lao, right?
Is it Lao? I always pronounce it Laos, but maybe...
I've been pronouncing it Laos for years until I don't know, someone corrected me about that it's Lao.
Okay, then we just do a lisp Lao. So that...
Tristan, do you know? Lao or Laos? Laos.
Okay, let's just go with your politically correct way of saying it.
I think it's Lao. It's Lao, yeah.
Lao.
But yeah, basically, Scoot, he took a flight back from Vientiane to Singapore, and he was there for the 44th and 45th ASEAN summits and related summits, which was held in that city.
Yep.
So there was a video by CNA taken from, I guess, a passenger. And I mean, the video started with the camera pointing out the window to this like procession with like armed guards and a red carpet. And then they swing into the entrance of the front of the plane, and PM Wong walks in. And then when he walks in, people clap, and he, waves to the crowd and sits down at the first row.
Yeah.
So, what were your thoughts when you first saw this, Terence?
I mean, it was quite surprising. I never thought that, the Prime Minister would take budget airline, right?
Yeah.
I thought that the minimum you would give is a SQ business class. Not even economy class, like business class, right? And to fly SQ is like no-brainer, right? So yeah, I was quite surprised to see that he was taking Scoot. Yeah. How about you? Do you feel a sense of pride when you saw him taking budget airline?
Okay, I won't deny that my first thought was like, this is just wayang.
Wayang.
Why
so cynical?
Because, okay, I mean, in the context of what happened the past few weeks, and this one I'm not leaping, okay? Even if you look at the facts, there was an ex-minister tried for taking a private jet to Doha for like one night and flying back private jet.
Yeah.
And the following...
he flew back business class.
Business class, okay, but a private jet there, and then still business class back.
Yeah.
And then you have this article that our Prime Minister takes Scoot. And I mean, I used to work at Scoot, right? It's I had a great time there, the people were great, but it's a budget carrier.
Yeah.
So that was my first it's all a show.
Yeah.
But then after that, you pointed out a few things, which I'm sure were contributing factors.
Yeah.
Which was what, Terence?
I found out online that SQ doesn't fly to Vientiane, which is where the summit or whatever it was, with the flight where he was coming back from. So there's no SQ flight from there, but Scoot does. So it becomes like, it's the only so-called Singaporean carrier, right?
Yeah, because SQ flies to Luang Prabang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that logistically already you've eliminated one option of flying SQ business class. But then the other one is like, could he have taken a private jet instead?
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, the funny thing is, the article themselves says, he went to that summit accompanied by Vivian Balakrishnan. But was Vivian Balakrishnan on his Scoot flight?
Probably, right? Probably.
How come you got no video?
Yeah, no video. But the thing is, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But that front row of seats where PM Wong was seated at, are those like business class, like Scoot business?
I mean, that one I don't know, but it's definitely the one with extra leg room.
Oh, extra leg room. So you must pay a bit premium.
Yeah, a bit more. Pay a bit premium.
Baller. No, because I would imagine like, I'm sure there's certain tiers in the civil service or government, right? When, you take if you're a certain level, like no matter what flight you take, it has to be at least business class. So for this, that's why I was very surprised to see that he was taking a budget airliner. Because I would have thought, if anything, like, if there's no SQ, then sorry, we have to charter a private jet.
Yeah.
That's what I thought the thought process would be.
And I'm sure there is also some sort of protocol, and any public servants who are listening and has the info, please just come to Reddit and tell us, because I'm very curious. I would imagine that by default, you will fly Singapore Airlines at wherever.
Yeah.
If it's a destination that Singapore Airlines does not serve, there's probably certain criteria that pushes you to another airline.
Yeah.
And Scoot is also owned by SIA, so I guess it falls under that. But then if Scoot doesn't fly there, then like if it's in Fiji or something,
private jet, or other airlines,
other airlines,
yeah. But I mean, don't you think that this is a great thing for Scoot marketing. Like imagine if you were working there doing marketing and all.
It's great.
And this happens to you.
Yeah, it's great. Like I mean, there's so many ways to play with it, right?
Yeah.
Prime Minister takes the airline. You can just have like a I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing even if they knew in advance, you can't talk about it because it's a security threat, right?
Sure.
But the amount of brand mentions that you get, and the fact that if your Prime Minister is flying your airline, means that there's a certain element of trust or respectability there,
Correct.
Yeah, so it's great,
Yeah. Then why do you think all those people who are seated at the back were so happy and cheering and everything? Because I'd imagine that a flight like that, probably the security screening is like, at least a few times more extensive, right?
Yeah.
And probably they'll have to take more time to clear the security of the plane.
And you have to wait for that whole procession outside to happen, right?
And then you know that his bodyguards probably will come on with weapons and everything.
Yeah.
So, right?
Because I think in Singapore, we still have or at least certain demographics, this worshipping of politicians.
Reverence.
Reverence of politicians, which, I mean, if you look at the video also, I think it looks like there's a lot of older folk.
Yeah.
I think so. So yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I can imagine people just like, oh, PM Wong is on our flight.
Some more budget, there's no divide between business and economy class.
Yeah, I mean the video does show clearly there's quite a more older folk than you would expect on a flight.
Yeah, this is like the most high-end meet the people session they ever done, right?
He cannot even say, oh, sorry guys, I need to rush off. I got a family event or something.
Cannot, he's stuck there.
He's stuck there.
But I'm pretty sure the guards probably formed the barrier such that you can't
the row behind or something.
They really pounce.
Oh, that's true. Otherwise, people would just be queuing up, man.
Yeah, queuing up to take photos, everything. But I guess there's one flight where everyone really has to wear your seatbelt, right? It's like they don't allow. If you want to take off a seatbelt, the guard will straight away just indicate you hey, why you stand up? That kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it'll be interesting I can imagine people just looking oh, what is PM Wong doing now? Is he sleeping? You see his head.
Yeah,
it's bobbing like that.
Yeah. But have you ever been on a flight or what with celebrities or very famous people?
I feel like you have told me something before.
I think I for work once I had to film some videos on a flight before. And it was not say very famous but it was a group of singers from Australia and all that. So yeah, it was just okay. It wasn't there wasn't any really big extra security or anything In fact, they were quite chill, quite friendly.
But how big were the singers?
They're like kids group kind of thing. Not say very big. Not huge. You probably wouldn't. Most people probably wouldn't know them.
I see.
But I mean, it's always interesting because like what you said, our flights kind of force everyone to be in the same space for an extended period of time, right? And what you do from there, you can come off as very standoffish and all.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe he hung out with them more and did something else. Because I heard recently when the Pope came to Singapore, right? There were journalists who flew on the plane with him from Italy and back to Italy.
Oh.
Like local journalists, Singaporean journalists.
Oh, is it?
And they got to hang out with him and talk to him or interview him during the flight.
Which airline they took?
I'm not sure, but it was literally on the plane where they did it. Yeah. So don't know if Lawrence Wong was doing that on the plane, maybe playing games with people.
Or you think people can literally count how many times you might need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's a 3-hour flight.
Yeah.
So you can keep track.
Yeah. Who's the most stressed person in the whole plane, you think?
Oh, I think the head of cabin crew.
Cabin crew, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, because you can see, the pilot is still there's a barrier in between. I'm guessing during the announcement he will also say,
welcome,
warm welcome to PM Wong. But yeah, for the cabin crew, I think
as long as no big turbulence, right? Wow, can you imagine if kind of turbulence happens?
Yeah, correct. So I mean. I jumped to conclusions. I don't think it was just a show thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you look at the video, he's almost kind of surprised that people are clapping.
He acts very well at acting surprised.
Hey, Terence, why? Maybe he really wasn't expecting it.
Maybe he wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, but it's funny because they show him first and then they cut to the crowd and everyone's just standing up and clapping.
Yeah. It's funny because the comments on the YouTube video on CNA, The comments are overwhelmingly positive. And these are from people who are not on the flight. People are saying, humble and down to earth. I give him 5 stars. From the looks of PN says he was shocked by the warm reception. Humble leader, keep striving.
So that is the kind of comments, right? Where I'm like, yo, okay, like, I don't think it's you should just take things at this like face this value. At face value lah. So that's the kind of thing I'm like. I mean, even Marketing Interactive had a whole article about the Scoot sentiment soar, like with their sentiment analysis and stuff like that. Apparently Scoot and like Lawrence Wong was trending, and there was a lot of like, wow, what a humble PM and all that. I'm like, no, I mean, there's no other option. So that's the kind of thing that irks me lah.
Irks you, yeah. But to me, it's like there's the Singapore brand lah, right?
Yeah.
Lawrence Wong, he's traveling the world to sort of spread the Singapore brand in some ways.
Yeah.
There are a lot of eyes on him. And if he can do something as simple as taking a budget flight, which is, not usual for a Prime Minister, right? To boost the brand value of a Singaporean carrier like Scoot or that. I think that's cool. That's like, how when Ed Sheeran came to Singapore and he was hanging out with these Singaporean watch band makers and all that. And he boosted the presence and made it, wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So if this was purely a marketing stunt also, it's quite good, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I totally respect that. And I think like I wouldn't say the irking is towards like PM Wong or anyone who does that.
Yeah.
It is the comments that, he's taking a low-cost carrier, he's so humble and down to earth. Which he might be. But I think when people just do and act like that, it doesn't mean they're humble or down to earth.
Correct.
If there is if within the criteria, you want to take a local carrier, support a local brand, why not? Let's do that. Then it is what it is. But if you see this as an extension of their character and all that, I'm like, yo, man, I think that's a bit too much of like, this happened, so this person must be like this.
But okay, you're at the age, or I'm at the age or so. We know people, right, who you point a gun at head, they wouldn't take budget airline already, right, in their lives. Because they're so used to SQ, they're so used to business class.
I guess.
And they can't even sit economy class for like more than an hour or 2 hours.
Yeah.
So for someone of, the stature of a prime minister to actually sit, scoot and all that, it is it is something out of the ordinary, right?
Yeah.
It's not saying like it's like climbing Mount Everest or something like that, but it is probably much less comfortable than what he'd be accustomed to.
Yeah.
So wouldn't you say that it says something about the character that someone, sort of bites the bullet, like Singapore economy is, inflation's a problem, people are struggling with layoffs and jobs like that. How can I spend the money on business class flight when there's a, pretty decent budget carrier?
Yeah.
Doesn't that say something about the Lawrence Wong as a person, right? Doesn't it?
I guess, but the cynical side of me is like, then it becomes the return on your action.
Yeah.
For someone who is not a public figure, the sacrifice they are making by taking budget, what is the thing? They don't get any good PR. They don't get people saying, here's this person who's worth so much but still taking budget. So like, fuck it lah. But if you're a public figure doing these kind of things, there's always a net positive return that you get in terms of image and branding lah. So that's where I think you gotta kind of take things with a pinch of salt lah. Yeah.
I really wish one day that when I take budget carrier that
people
will
say,
stand there and clap.
Wow, Terrence,
wow.
What a man.
You're so humble.
That's right.
That's it. Sorry, it's all I could afford.
Running an internationally famous podcast, and yet he's taking, this is a true value of this podcast, one with the people,
I remember last time when we took a flight to London, and then I think it was on YouTube's Dine, right? And then they put us on premium economy.
we got a glass of champagne.
Yeah.
We were cheering and taking photos.
And we got to walk past the economy class passengers to board first as well. Because premium economy. I think that was like, wow, we felt like ballers.
Great, man. It was great. That was the peak of the Ministry of Funny Days.
But nobody was clapping for us. I think, but we were just applauding ourselves in our hearts.
There was solitary glass of champagne.
With the extra leg room. I enjoyed the extra leg room. Man.
That is true.
How different life is between us plebeians.
But I mean, overall, it's still a nice thing to see. Especially in the contrast of like, the narrative last week of, this ex-minister taking a private jet, seeing the prime minister on a low-cost carrier. Still a nice, refreshing thing.
Yeah, and I think that it brought a lot of positive buzz to, Scoot. Right? Singapore carrier.
Yeah.
I always say that this the kind of thing that you can't buy with money, this kind of coverage, right? So it's quite a creative way to do it. I've talked about it ad nauseum, right? About how SQ needs to feature more local artists, like put banking on as your ambassador, global ambassador, not just for Singapore, global ambassador and things like that,
Yeah.
And Yalla Butt should be on everyone's in-flight entertainment systems.
Yes. Yes. Singapore Airlines, Scoot, Silk Air.
Yeah.
In-flight entertainment. We're ready to chat, man.
Yeah. Today you have Lawrence Wong, tomorrow you got Yalla Butt.
Oh, Lamar. Shitting on Lawrence Wong taking.
Hey, we're not shitting. Hello.
Okay, yeah. Not
shitting. Have been cynical.
Not shitting on Lawrence Wong. Yeah,
I'm all for it, man.
Yeah, no, I would say I'm also all for it, but it's the commenters who like just taking this one action and saying, "Oh my God, he's so humble." I would say that of anybody.
Okay.
It's not just targeted at Lawrence Wong. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, about the commenters who just lap this up. But yeah, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah,
cool.
Exciting Monday. What is your one shot comment since the last time we spoke?
Do you have yours in front of you?
I could just pull it up quickly. I mean my one shot comment is I think people were pointing out about Muna's appearance on our podcast, and I think the very nice one comment that someone did say, which I, would want to point out now, is because someone said, love Muna in the podcast. Hopefully you can invite her more often in the podcast. And, Ammo Conscious, for example, talks about Muna's answer to bullies. And so just a lot of praise about Muna, right? And someone even said, we also want the two other hosts from Just Saying to rocket boost this channel's subscribership.
Yeah, that's true.
So Muna passed the audition with flying colours as a guest host. But not necessarily to replace you.
Exactly. The jury's still out. My one short comment is, I wouldn't say it's a short comment, but just a comment worth talking about is from Spider-Man 015 from the episode 573 where we talk about the photo of Isran and the Qantas making passengers watch the R-rated movie. So they tag me, at Harish, don't always turn down what Terrence said. It's the fall guy, like he said, not free guy.
It's the free guy.
Joke aside, great podcast as always. It is free guy.
It is, yeah.
It is free guy. Fall Guy is a movie that was starring Ryan Gosling.
The other Ryan, yeah.
Yeah, but Ryan Reynolds starred in this movie Free Guy, which is actually a very good movie. So, same way you're telling me not to turn down what Terrence said, don't just not accept what I say. It is Free Guy.
Yeah.
It was a good movie. So if you can, just catch it.
Yeah, Harish has dad brains right now. But I just want to declare I've had dad brains for 4 years already. So it's I'm an unreliable repository of this kind of random trivia.
Why you anyhow say sell yourself short? I don't think you have dad brain.
I have dad brain. I know it. You feel it. You know it in your bones, when you're just not able to remember certain
True things. Like now I find myself during the day, suddenly I just fucking tired.
Diet? What do you mean? Tired.
And I just need to, oh my God, I need to pass out.
It happens.
Yeah, it happens.
And then you start, basically, I think it's your brain also just, if you don't need a certain piece of information, you just chuck it out the window. So I used to be that guy who knew a lot of movie trivia and who did what and who acted in what and who won awards, all that has gone up my brain. Even films that I really enjoyed before. Sometimes I struggle to remember details about about them and all that. So I feel a lot of it's just to do with space,
mental space.
But
and what about your one shot thing, man?
My one shot thing actually is this weekend I got into a bit of a rabbit hole. I started looking up about people climbing Mount Everest because there was recently a story about a 76-year-old Singaporean who got lost climbing around the Mount Everest region. And then they found his body, and then they're trying to recover his body and everything. And I think last year, I think there was another Singaporean who summited Everest. After that, fell ill, and then I think he died on the way down.
Yeah.
So just reading about those stories and just understanding the whole ecosystem of wanting to climb Mount Everest. Like, why do people want to climb Mount Everest, and what is it that is so dangerous, and why do some people, succumb to injuries, why not, and all. And there's a lot of interesting videos out there talking about the state of climbing Mount Everest today. That although Everest sounds very dangerous, apparently is because it's so popular, it's much safer than, or not say much safer, less chance of dying compared to some other mountains.
Like K2 K2.
Yeah, but you don't hear about those other mountains because they're not as famous. So there was this video by DJI, the drone maker, released about 3 months ago, where they just basically flew a drone all the way up from base camp all the way to the top of Mount Everest. Yeah, in one video. I mean, they got cut a little bit here and there, but you really can see the terrain all the way. You can see the paths that people are walking, and people just slowly struggling the way up. And it just soars right by them all the way to the top of the hill.
That's like a 2 kilometer ascent, because base camp is 6,000 plus meters.
Yeah. So this is a 4 minute, 12-second video.
Oh shit!
So if you, like me, like that, if you don't think you have a chance to climb Mount Everest in your life, this will probably give you the best impression of like why it's such an insane activity to take on.
But what else about it did you find out since you went down the rabbit hole? I mean, apart from the visual element,
I think the interesting thing is that there are tools that they can use to try and let's say you're having some kind of swelling brain because of whatever reason, because your body couldn't acclimatize. There's this big bag, this body bag thing that you can lie in, and then they pump air inside such that it simulates you descending. The air pressure simulates you descending, and it maybe can help you recover for a while, but you need to apparently sit in it for an hour. So, and someone needs to be pumping every minute, at least 5 times every minute for an hour to just help you recover. But then the moment you pop out the thing again, apparently it can just come back just like that. So that's why you don't have the time to do that at Everest, because it's a race against time, right? The ascent is there's a death zone at the top where if something happens to you there,
they won't bring your body down.
And there are a lot of discussions about ethics of that as well. Like, why is it that people climbing are not helping each other out? And it points to the ecosystem, the economy of climbing Mount Everest. It costs upwards of 80, 90 grand to climb Mount Everest, for the individual. So why would you, if you are already half dying yourself, why would you want to sacrifice that 80 to 90 grand that you spent to help someone who's sitting there and dying, right? Which is an interesting discussion, because I think we were talking about the bystander thing, right?
Bystander thing,
today, about where would you help someone who's
but that was on the context of Singapore roads.
Singapore roads different. But it's interesting, all right, if you're you got pounding headache.
No, because it's a threat to you also.
Yeah. To try and help. So you listen to all the stories, and if you go and climb Mount Everest now, apparently you will walk past all these
some
frozen
of them have
bodies.
been now landmarks.
Yeah, landmarks. Or some still can't be identified. I think just a few days ago there was someone found the shoe or the boot of one of the very, very early explorers who apparently his body was never found. But now they found his boot and his socks with his initials. I think his name's Irvine. And then they managed to get the family's DNA, and now they're going to cross-check if that is his body and boot. So it's insane, you think that it would be very easy to identify the person, but it's not. I
have one friend who climbed Everest.
Oh yeah,
yeah, and I mean
and lived to tell the tale.
Yeah, lived to tell the tale.
Yeah.
My classmate from school, solid guy, and I remember he would post these videos once in a while on his blog. And as much as you hear that you can even get a car that drives you up all the way to base camp, and then you just ascend from there. It's still there's a lot of risk. I remember seeing one video where he would be walking across the crevasses. So there's a ladder, and you walk on the ladder. And if you slip off the ladder, you just fall into the crevasse. And I remember when we went to his wedding, his proposal video to his wife, right? He recorded on the summit of Everest. Then you can see all the guys saying, "Fuck lah, why you spoil market?" Literally the video was him on summit. He's then he take a bit of oxygen, I want to tell you, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. And he played it at his wedding. Then all of a sudden, propose, you hear people do helicopter and stuff like that on the summit of Everest. But so I think after that he tried to climb K2 but couldn't just the weather. The weather screwed things up.
So there's a positive example. But the Singaporean who went last year, quite sad. I mean, he left his wife here in Singapore. And I mean, his last text to her was essentially that he's not going to make it down. So that, I mean, but it's I think she is probably processing the grief and everything.
Wow.
And I think she's a musician or something, so she's processing it through writing and all. But you can tell that something. So they were very excited, like all the way through April last year and all that. And you can, I mean, the thing about social media these days is that you can actually scroll back and read what they were saying about it beforehand. So
so I mean, it is still life and death. Like climbing Everest is still damn dangerous.
You think about going on holidays, you never think about, okay, there's a chance that, you might die on this holiday. Right, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, there's an interesting rabbit hole I went down this weekend.
Wow. I mean, on a lighter note, my one show thing was a music video that was released by The Lonely Island.
Oh, wow. They're back.
They're back. Wow. Like 6 days ago, they released their first music video in like, I think 6 years.
Yeah.
Between 6 years ago and now, they've done like podcasts with Seth Meyers and all. But this video is in the Lonely Island style. It's called Sushi Glory Hole. Which, I mean, for people who are unaware, a glory hole is basically like a hole in a public toilet where, people can stick their genitalia in or have genitalia stuck out at you.
Yeah.
But this song is about a glory hole, except what comes out is a sushi roll. So it's in Lonely Island style, and it's awesome. And if you haven't heard of Lonely Island, you see all these parody rap videos and stuff like that. I think they are one of the OGs. I think maybe 10 years ago. Like, their videos are great. Inspired our music videos. Snapback, exactly. Yeah. And back then, they would do videos with Justin Timberlake, Akon. You may have heard, I'm on a boat, or I just had sex, or Mother Lover.
Who's in the video of them? Like,
which one? This Sushi Glory? Just the two people from Lonely Island.
Oh, so no special guests?
No special guests.
Oh, okay. But there's a lot of SNL.
It was an SNL digital shot.
Got it.
But yeah, Lonely Island is amazing, and the song is damn...
It's catchy?
Catchy, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And like, and Andy Samberg is inside.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great. Yeah, man.
Interesting.
The Lonely Island. But cool. That's the end of the podcast.
We project that it'll be quite interesting discussions later this week.
Yeah, I mean,
today a bit less.
Parliament also sitting today.
Yeah.
So the rest of the week is going to be epic. So please remember to follow us, hit subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify. Leave us a review on Spotify. I think we're still at 1,200 reviews. Could always do with more. And follow us on TikTok, Instagram. And what else, Terence?
You want to work with us? Contact us at contact@ministryoffunny.com, or just check out our website, ministryoffunny.com.
All right. Talk to y'all soon.